Accounting equation and Excel. Create invoices using billable time. Get ready and some coffee because we're about to learn the accounting foundation, the accounting equation using Excel. Here we are in Excel. If you don't have access to this workbook, that's okay because we basically built this from a blank worksheet, but started in a prior presentation. So if you want to build this entire worksheet from a blank sheet, you may want to begin back there or just construct your own worksheet as we go, or possibly just follow along with good old paper and pencil. If you do have access to this workbook though, 4 tabs down below: example, month 1, practice, month 2, example, in essence, the answer key. Month 1, prior month of operations, the practice tab having pre-formatted cells so you can practice the practice problem with less Excel formatting. Month 2, the tab that we will be working on, is the current month of operations, where we started out with a blank worksheet but are basically working within a template at this time. However, we will be adding to that template as needed as we go, practicing our Excel tools and formatting as we do so. Let's go to the example tab to get an idea of what we will be doing. Remembering we're using the accounting equation to record our bookkeeping system, it basically acting as our trial balance from which we will construct our financial statement reports, balance sheet, income statement, statement of equity. Remembering that income statement can sometimes be called the profit and loss report. So last time we have entered our timesheets. We're imagining, even though we sell guitars here, that we have a job cost kind of system, not in a construction system that can be somewhat more complicated, but in a service type industry where the classic parallels here are in the industry of a CPA firm, a bookkeeping firm, a law firm, in which case you usually have different partners. They all have their own basically clients you can imagine, and they pool together the resources, which include the staff, in order to work on those particular clients, in which case, even if we're paying those individuals a salary, we still need to track their time because we need to bill out their time, which we might do on, say, a weekly basis, bi-weekly, or a monthly type basis. So we need some way for those people to fill out what jobs they worked on, who they worked for, and then we're going to pick those up and enter those into the system. So last time we recorded those timesheets, which we can imagine would be in accounting software, in which case we can integrate that possibly into something like a QuickBooks or a Xero, for example, it pulling into the system into what we call billable time. Remember, in these terms, we have to be careful with the terminology, because when I say something is billable, it goes back to that classic example of a bill, where we're saying, what does that even mean? Does that mean that we're billing the client? Or does that mean they're giving us a bill? We could use it interchangeably no matter which side we are on the table in normal language, even in normal accounting language. But when we go into the accounting software, we're talking specifically about the data input form. So when I say that something is a bill, I mean that it's going to increase accounts payable. That's what it means. So if I get the physical paper bill or an electronic bill, I might not enter it in the system as a bill, but rather I might just enter it as a check or an expense form, which are basically just electronic transfers, the forms that decrease the cash account or the checking account. But I could enter it as a bill, which for data input purposes is the form that increases the accounts payable. Now notice when we use this terminology of us making something billable, it would seem to be more correct in accounting software language to stay on the same side of the table to say it was invoiceable, right? But that's a little bit harder to say. So classically, when you're talking in like a law firm or a CPA firm, you don't say, I want you, what kind of invoiceable time do you have? That's too hard on the speech, the language. We say, how much billable time do you have? Meaning the time that we're going to invoice the clients in terms of the form terminology. So that's something just to kind of keep in mind. We're kind of mixing up our terms there from normal parlance to data input. So that means that if something got pulled into the system from the timesheet, it has not yet recorded anything in the system except tracking the time that we could possibly then apply to a customer, that time being called billable time, that we can turn around and use to invoice. Or we could just track this stuff like in Excel. Just fill out the information that you worked on for particular customers, and then we'll pull it in. So this time we're just going to do the actual, what the partner would probably do, taking that time, entering it into the system, imagining we're sending out the invoices that were for work that was done by our staff. All right, let's go to the month 2 tab here. I'm going to go all the way up and to the right to just recap what we did last time, where we entered our billable information. So we basically said, okay, it's month 2. We're going to have our 2 employees. They could be contractors even, you can imagine, right? And say that these are the people that worked for our particular clients. And we have them give us our worksheet saying, what days did you work? We're just going to use a weekly timesheet in this case, even though we're doing a monthly problem. But this is a weekly timesheet. So Monday through Sunday, what hours did you work and what customer did you work on? So Adam worked on customer 1, Monday and Wednesday. Remembering what we need here is at minimum the days that were worked, the hours, and then who worked on it, because then I can bill people out either based on the hourly rate per person that worked, which in our case is fine because we're talking about just guitar lessons. Therefore, I'm going to bill out based on the expertise of the instructor. But we might have a different system. We might say basic instructions. Maybe we bill out at a different or possibly lower rate than more advanced instructions or something like that. And in that case, we would need another dimension here that would give us the work that was done. Did you do beginning guitar lessons and more advanced guitar lessons? Did you just show people how to tune up the guitar, which should be fairly basic? We could possibly have like just a staff person, do that maybe. It doesn't take too much knowledge to do that, possibly. Maybe we bill that out basically at a different rate, which means we would have what in software terms we would call items, inventory items. We would like to pull the billable time, in other words, into our invoice, giving us the billable item. That would be what was done in the description of the invoice, and or at least who did the work, if that is how we're billing basically the client. In our case, we're having our billable items that should pull into the invoice that we're physically going to give or email in some way, electronically transferred to our client for payment. And we would like in the description the what was actually done or who did the actual guitar lessons, which would be in QuickBooks terms the items. All right, so now we're just going to say, all right, we've got these. It could be in QuickBooks, in which case we would just use those billable items to then construct an invoice with like a click of the button, and hopefully it'll pull that stuff in. Or we get the physical invoices like this, just physical timesheets like in Excel or whatever we have, and we're going to pull this into the system. I just want to reiterate one more time, however, that even if you're in a law firm or you're in an accounting firm, it might be better, there's a trend oftentimes to get away from the billable time, if possible, if you can make something more of a standard billable rate so people kind of know what's happening. With bookkeeping, again, I think it's quite useful to try to say, I'm going to count the number of transactions and put my billable rate based on that number of transactions, as opposed to time, which can vary based on how tired you are or whatever from day to day. But if something is quite complex, you're taking on jobs that you don't know what's going to happen, then again, all you can really do is the billable hours oftentimes. So just to keep that in mind. All right, we're going to go all the way to the left. I messed up the panes, so I'm going to go back up top, put my cursor in cell A5 so I can freeze the pane. Go into the View tab. We're going to go to the Windows group and freeze the panes. Scrolling down, scrolling. And then we're going to say on 227, we're going to bill for guitar lessons. And this is going to be the first one. I'm pulling in Adam's sheet. Adam, that's our contractor or employee. And we're pulling in from the timesheet customer number 1 that we saw he worked on. Let's pull in the hours. I'm going to say this is going to be equal to, I'm just going to pull this in like the billable amount here. We'll do the multiplication in this part. So I'm going to say, here's his timesheet. Where is this timesheet? It's over here. We're not there yet. It's over here. So customer number 1 worked 4 hours on the week. So I'm going to take that 4 hours times the $75, which is the rate, and that's going to give us our 300. So we're going to bill out to customer 1 an invoice, billing out, which is an invoice form that we will create based on that time. That means accounts receivable is going to be going up by 300, and the other side is going to go into some kind of service item, which we can call, I think we just kept it in the service revenue instead of, we could, now this is another area to be careful of. We could break out the general services and just say everything that is services, but maybe we break out something different saying this is the guitar lessons versus the other services. We don't want to get too detailed. If you're a law firm, for example, you don't want to list out all the different activities, types of services you do in the law firm because they could be quite varied in the income statement, although you would possibly list them out and bill them at different rates with the list of items. So noting in a software format, usually we want to have less income items. I don't want to break out the revenue accounts by customer per se, or by item per se, by what I did, or the inventory items. Although there are exceptions, we might want to have a little bit of that there. And then in software in particular, we can usually have a sub-ledger report easily generated, which will actually list out supporting accounts, which you could think of as sub-ledger accounts for revenue, that does give us that detail. That's why we don't really want it on the income statement. It would clutter the income statement. And software has that added ability through the 4-dimensional kind of system versus the 2-dimensional system here for us to run reports, giving us that added detail, which is nice. So the bottom line is we'll just put it into the service revenue. The bottom line is we'll just put it into the service revenue here. It's quite long-winded. It's long-winded. It's because I'm used to talking to my horse, and it's got a long face, so it takes a long time for the wind to get to the horse's ears. So I have to be long-winded when I'm talking to my horse. Now okay, that is just stupid. Get back, focus on what you're doing here. We're gonna then I need to put over here the customer that we worked on, customer 1. So I'm just gonna add the customer 1 to our accounts receivable, putting my cursor on AX, the entire column, right click and insert. And this is gonna be customer 1. I'll make that a little smaller. There, that's perfect. Perfecto. There's the zeros. So I'm just going to go right there and say this is equal the same activity that happened in the receivables. 300 is going to be in our subledger, breaking it out by customer, copying down the totals. But I've got to double click here and pull this over because I added a new one to the right. So it should add up to 21,256 on the subledger. That should tie out to what's on my AR account. So an AR this plus this adds up to 21,256. That is good. Let's put an underline under this whole thing. Underline this home tab font group underline. And then we'll ununderline these two, ununderline. Okay, and then let's pull down the balance, selecting these items, seeing if our double entry accounting system is still in balance. It is. Assets went up, accounts receivable, equity went up. The actual form that would be going out is, of course, the invoice, which has that added information, needs to give you the item and everything on it so the customer knows what you're billing them for. We're going to sum up the total, and then we'll do it again. We're going to copy this. Copy, right arrow holding down shift to try to do this more with the keyboard because that's cooler, that's fancy, that's what gets you, that's what pulls in all the chicks, man. They love it when you use the keyboard only because that shows your Excel prowess, which is obviously very very attractive. We're gonna pull this down and then this one. All right. Okay. So then next, we're going to say, then next one, same timesheet, next customer on it. All right, so we're going to say this is going to be, once again, 227, bill for guitar lessons. So I'm just going to say this equals the same one, but this time we have Adam, but customer number 2. Customer number 2, let's make this indented, home tab, alignment, indent. This one too, I'll indent that. So let's do the same calculation. This equals from Adam's timesheet, customer numero dos, number 2, scrolling to the right. All right, so now we've got here, Adam worked for customer 2, again, 4 hours, and for the guitar lessons, and we're billing out $75 an hour for Adam's superb guitar lessons. That's a deal, by the way, people. We have some sales, some offers happening, and you're not gonna find someone of the caliber of Mr. Hamilton at a rate that's comparable. I'll tell you that right now. This is going to be going, the other side's going to go, so we're invoicing, the other side's going to service. All right, let's put the zeros across the board. Zeros across the board. Zeros across the board. Oh, not there. Undo, Control Z. Did that on purpose to show you that if you mess up, if people that aren't as good at this mess up, you can always go back and Control Z on it. And then we could do this with the keyboard now. I'm gonna go holding down Shift all the way to the right, underline. I think there's a keystroke for that, but I don't know it. So that's why I'm gonna put an underline here. And then we'll pull down the balance once again. Pulling down the balance equals the sum of the prior balance and the current activity, enter. And then I'll copy that, just keyboard action, copy, right arrow, holding down Shift, arrowing right, arrowing right, arrowing right, and then right click on it because I need to paste it special, just the formulas, boom, and then I need to fix the fact that I messed up these for formatting's sake. You messed those up for formatting's sake. All right, that's okay, I fixed it, don't get upset. I'm gonna then underline these, home tab, font group, underline, and then we'll pull down the balances. Pull down the balances, and then we'll put the underline here, so same activity happened. AR went up, other side goes to equity because it's the income statement went up. All right, now we're gonna go to the second timesheet. We've got a bill out for Erica. Erica, we're gonna bill for guitar lessons. This time it's Erica's timesheet, and she worked on customer 3. Can't you get more? Can't you even come up with a name, for crying out loud? I mean, can't a little realism in the practice? Okay, I got lazy with the names. Okay, it's hard to come up with names. This is gonna be equal to. We're gonna scroll up to the top. We're gonna look for Erica's timesheet over here. She's our guitar master. She charges a higher rate, but still totally worth it if you're in the market for a little bit more advanced of guitar lessons here. Erica, customer number 3, 4 hours was worked, and we charge 115 times 115 for Erica's rate. Now wait a second, is that right? Yeah, 115 and enter. Boom. So we're charging $460. Okay, so we're gonna send out an invoice for her. Once again, journal entry is the same. AR is going up. $460. Tab, 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 tab. Oh, did I do the subledger last time? Let me just fix this. Did I do the subledger? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Let's fix that. So this is customer number 2. I have to add another column. Select in the column, right click, insert. I'll copy this customer and just rename customer number 2. This is the whole customer family. Customer number 1 told his brother, about it who happened to be named customer number 2. And so now we've got the customer family coming in, and this is going to be equal to, and we'll scroll all the way over to the AR. AR is going up by 300. I've got to pull this down, but I need to fix the formula. Fix the formula for formatting's sake. We're going to pull this to the right, and then we'll copy it down. Double checking the AR to our subledger. Subledger adds up to 21,556. Is that what's on the GL accounting equation? 21,556, indeed it is. Okay, back to this one. 460, AR goes up by 460. The other side is the revenue for service items. It's going up by also the 460. We'll put zeros across the board and then fix the subledger. Zeros across the board. Zeros across the board. Zeros across the board. And then we'll fix the subledger for customer numero 3. Number 3, we're going to select the entire AZ column. Right click and insert. We'll copy number 2. The customer family has now brought their other sibling. It's a big family. We're lucky that if you get the customer family as a client, man, you've got like a whole, that'll support you right there because they got a big family. So customer number 3 from the customer family is in 460. Again, we need to change the formula because I've got a new customer here, so I got to bring it out before I copy down my running balance. That balance is running. Why? Because Jenny told me to run 2216. I just do what Jenny told me to. And so if I sum these up, 2216, so I think the subledger ties out to the general ledger. Muy bien. Let's put an underline under this, holding down Shift to select the whole thing so we can put a line underneath it. And we call that an underline. Home tab, font group, underline. And then we're going to say boom, boom, and put an underline here. Or underline that. All right, what last one? Same thing. That was we need to bring the balance down. Don't get ahead of yourself. Sum it up, little darling. Sum it up. We're going to copy that. Holding down Shift, scrolling all the way to the right, just using the good old keyboard. Look how cool that is. Look at that. Showing off with my keyboard abilities. Pasting it with the formulas only. And so we're going to go, let's pull this one down. And then we'll pull this one down. Boom. Shakalaka. And then one more time. Otra vez, Erica's second client. We're billing out for Erica's guitar lessons. Erica, the guitar master, making us buku buckos, baby. This is customer number 4. And let's say this is going to be equal to, pulling this in from her timesheet once again, scrolling over, and buku buckos, baby. God. All right, so this is going to be Erica for customer number 4. She worked 4 hours times the billable rate, which is $115. We're going to charge out to customer number 4 with an invoice. Let's put that into our AR. Is going up by 460. The other side is going to go to the service revenue, going up by, once again, 460. Zeros across the board, and then we'll fix the subledger. Zeros across the board. Whoop, not there. Control Z. Zeros across the board. Subledger. We got to add one more time. Selecting BA, and then we're going to insert, and then we're going to say boom, pasting it. I used to have t-shirts that was a surfer company called BA. They were funny. I'm going to say this is going to be 460. And then I'm going to double click on this and pull this on to the right. Enter. Copy this down. Running balance currently at 22,476 in the subledger. Does that tie out to what's in the GL, the general ledge? We're going to say 22,476. It is. Let's put the underline across the board here, holding down shift so I can select them all at one time. So I can just go boom, underline. Underline at one time, baby. Let's put, I'm holding down control for non-adjacent cells, underline that one so it doesn't look, so it looks better. Okay, let's pull down the balances. I haven't done that for a while. Let's pull this down. So this was this last balance. This was it. So then let's put an underline under these. And then, so now we were here. That's in balance, green zeros. So now this is the last one. I got to pull down the balance now. Pulling down the balance. This equals the sum of the prior balance plus the current activity. And then I'm going to Control C, copy, arrow to the right, hold down shift, arrow to the right, just holding down the arrow. I can let it go right when I hit the end. Watch, I'll let it go right at the right time. Like, oh no, that was way off. You were way off. You suck. Okay, whatever, dude. That's not easy. It's not easy. I'm going to say format, paste it, formulas only. Okay. And then we'll pull down the balance. Pull down the balance here, do. And then we'll put an underline on these. Underline. Okay. One more thing. We will now imagine that we've got a payment. So we're going to say that we, on 2/27, we collected from one of them. So we're going to say collect on invoices for guitar lessons, just so we can see what the collection would look like. We're going to say it was customer one paid us. Customer one, that's the reliable one of the family, of the customer family. I always like that customer one. They're going to pay us, we're going to say $300 because that's what we billed them for. So we can kind of connect that out. What would that look like? Well, let's put it not into the cash account. We're going to put it into undeposited funds because we're going to imagine maybe we got paid through a Stripe or a PayPal or something, and we have that grouping situation. Whereas if we got paid directly with electronic transfer or check, then we might be able to use the payment form to put it directly into the cash account. Now remember, if you're using like a QuickBooks, when we get paid on the invoice, we imagine we sent out the invoice and then they pay us somehow with an electronic transfer or something like that. We call that receipt form not a deposit. You would think it'd be like a deposit going in the checking account. Even if it went directly into the checking account, we're still going to record it basically as a payment form, which could go into the checking account or into undeposited funds, because that form is the form for softwares like QuickBooks, at least, which is directly linked to the receivable, meaning that's the form that's used to decrease accounts receivable. It could be also like a deposit in that we could deposit it directly into the checking account, but the nature of the form is it decreases the receivable and it doesn't necessarily go externally to the customer, although we could make it into an external form to have like a thank you for your payment response. But we think of it still as a form from a data input standpoint, which automatically could be generated if we're using bank feeds or something like that, connecting the invoice to the payment. Even if that's the case, it's not like we lose the idea of the payment form, because if I drill back down on the data, it's still going to be a payment type form that recorded the transaction, which basically made, from our standpoint, a journal entry, which you can think of in terms of debits and credits or increases and decreases in the accounting equation, as we're doing here. So I'm going to say the undeposited funds went up, and then the other side is going to bring down the A to the R, accounts receivable. So let's put zeros across the board, and then we need to fix the subledger because now we had a customer payment. Nothing happens to the income statement for this one because we already hit the income when we build them. When we build them, we hit the income statement. Now, customer one, I can see in the column of customer one owes us $300, right? Now they're paying us. If we were in software, we would have the added 4-dimensional feature, you know, other than the 2-dimensional we're looking at here in like a double entry accounting system in Excel, that this would be an invoice form that I could say is either open or not open. It's been paid, partially paid, or not paid. And now it has been paid, meaning I can tie out this payment form, linking it to the invoice, which will now show as having been paid in the subledger, and it'll have a link to this form, which will be a payment form, right? That's how the added feature works within like a QuickBooks or a Xero system of the forms. That's why the forms are useful, even though they just record journal entries from like a financial statement processing system. From a bookkeeping system to track customer payments, the linking of the forms makes that process easier. So I'm going to say this equals the decrease of the accounts receivable. So it's mirroring the receivable account, but now applied to the particular customer, meaning now that customer doesn't owe us anything. Pulling down the balance reduces the accounts receivable. That, by the way, is why we say we credit their account. They paid us, therefore we credit their accounts, because the accounts receivable to us is an asset. And from debits and credit standpoints, credits make the asset go down. That's why we say we credit their account. Here we're doing it with an accounting equation, but that's the thing. 22,176 is the balance in the subledger. Is that what ties out to the general ledger? It would be this minus this adds up to 22, or subtracts out to 22,176. Let's put an underline under the entire thing and wrap this thing up like a present for Christmas. Home tab, font group, underline. Not like I would wrap it though. Wrap it good, like someone who knows how to wrap it. We're gonna wrap it up nice. I don't know how to wrap, but we have to make the Excel sheet. I know how to make the Excel sheet at least kind of nice. I don't want to wrap it up ugly. And then I'm going to pull this down, and then we'll pull down the balance, pulling down the balance, summing it up. Prior balance, current activity. We're going to Control C, copy, right arrow, holding down the shift. I'm going to stop right on. Oh, didn't quite get it. I got better that time. I was a little better. Still, that was terrible. Still terrible. Next time I'll get perfect. I'm going to say this is going to be pasted the formulas only. And then we're going to copy this down, copy these down, roger that, copy it down. Nothing happened to the accounting equation format because one asset went up and the other asset went down. I'm going to do one more transaction. I know thought it was done there, but I want to pull this undeposited fund into the cash account now just to see the full process here. And so we're going to do another journal entry. This would then be the deposit form. We could have deposited this directly into the checking account if it was only one payment and we didn't have to combine it with anything else like an electronic transfer or a check. But if it went through PayPal or a credit card, it might be combined together. Even, however, if it was a check or cash payment, if I do accept credit cards or PayPals, I might want to set up my overall system to always go through undeposited funds because that's the general system, and it has an added benefit of the deposits into the checking account are always with a deposit form if you're using something like a QuickBooks, as opposed to having increases to the checking account, which might be a deposit form, might be a sales receipt form, and then you have the transfers that could be in there and whatnot. So it would be nice if all increases to the checking account were deposit forms. Why? Because in a QuickBooks system, you can sort by deposits, which hopefully show all the increases, as opposed to having to sort by deposits and sales receipts and then possibly transfers and any other weird activities that are going on. You could have an expense for an increase in a checking account, which would be weird. But anyways, we won't get it. What are you talking about? Just do the deposit, man. All right, deposit, finish. We're wrapping this thing up. I thought we were wrapping this thing up. Okay, we're wrapping it up now. So now we have 400 in undeposited funds, 300 from this time, 100 from our prior journal entry. So we're going to combine those together. So I'm going to say negative 400 to bring undeposited funds down to 0, and then cash is going to go up by a positive 400. All right, let's put the zeros across the board. Nothing else is happening. No impact to the income statement. We're just taking one, in essence, cash account, undeposited funds, the clearing account, putting it into another cash account, the checking account, but grouping it in a format that should match what's going to be on the checking account from the bank side of things, so that we can easily do the bank reconciliation. Let's put an underline under this thing, under this bad doggy. I'm going to copy this down for formatting's sake. And we'll copy this down. And then let's put the balance, bringing down the balance. This is it this time. For this time, I'm for serious, man, for serious. This is the last one. I'm going to copy that. All right, I'm going to hold down shift right arrow. I'm going to stop right at the end, like without stopping any time before. So I'm going to hold down shift. Oh, it's too short that time. Dang it. I was like 3 cells off. That's okay. I'm getting better. I got a little antsy, a little jumpy that time. I'm going to paste it with the formulas. All right. And then, okay. So I think that's it. Let's copy down our balances. We're going to copy this down. Doot, doot, doot. And then we'll put an underline under these. Underline, home tab, font group, underline, and there we go. There we go. I think that's good.